Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. A Tesla Cybertruck caught fire outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on Wednesday, killing one person and injuring several others. News reports said it was being investigated as a possible terrorist act. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said a person was found dead inside the 2024 model Yearend Cybertruck and 7 people sustained minor injuries from the explosion. Eyewitnesses who shot the video from a high-rise building could be heard reacting to the explosion.
It was like a boom, boom, boom.
And I heard another.
And it almost sounded like a rolling, garbage dumpster.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the electric car maker was investigating the fire, but also said the explosion was caused by fireworks and/or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented vehicle. Police were mindful of the New Orleans attack that had occurred in the early hours of Wednesday that killed at least 15 people. The FBI said a potential explosive device was found in the vehicle used in that attack as well. Last year, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board opened an investigation into a crash and fire involving a Tesla electric semi-truck on a California highway. Auto experts say electric vehicle fires burn differently than those in cars with internal combustion engines, often lasting longer and being harder to extinguish. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and X, has changed his name to Kekius Maximus on social media platform X on Tuesday. Musk also replied to a post on X with the word keek or kek and changed his profile picture on X to that of Pepe the Frog, dressed as a Roman general, without offering an explanation for the changes. Musk, a major Trump ally, supports cryptocurrencies, and this move has sent the price of meme coin Pepe, a digital cryptocurrency, soaring. His net worth crossed $400 billion on December 12, the Forbes real-time billionaires list showed, boosted by a nearly 71% surge in the automaker's shares this year and the soaring valuation of his rocket company, SpaceX. Bitcoin's record-breaking run faltered toward the end of 2024, leading to its first monthly drop since August. The digital asset fell 3.2% last month as U.S. investors cashed profits after a rally triggered by President-elect Donald Trump's victory pushed Bitcoin to an all-time high of $108,315 mid-December. Feverish speculation that the crypto market has cooled as expectations for interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve waned, eroding appetite for riskier assets. Bloomberg reports the group of a dozen Bitcoin exchange-traded funds in the U.S. saw a net outflow of about $1.8 billion since December 19th. Open interest or outstanding contracts for Bitcoin futures hosted by Chicago-based CME Group, seen as a measure for U.S. institutional interest, also fell nearly 20% from its December peak. Even so, Bitcoin racked up a 120% gain in 2024, outperforming gold and global equities. Bitcoin was last trading at around $93,400 on Wednesday. Japanese shares closed on a 5-month high by the end of the year 2024, capping a record-breaking year for the Nikkei 225 index. The Tokyo Stock Exchange held a ceremony to mark the end of trading in 2024, a year marked by a new market high for the Nikkei. The Nikkei finished the year higher by over 21%.
日経平均株価を見てみますと、年初に3万3000円台からスタートした後、
Looking at the Nikkei stock average, it began the year at the 33,000 yen level, but continued to rise powerfully until in February it set a new market record of 38,915 yen for the first time in about 34 years, since the bubble era of late 1989.
Germany's DAX was unable to build on its successes by the year end, rising by around 19% over the year, making it the top performer among the major European stock exchanges. 10-year German government bonds, the benchmark bond in the Eurozone, rose by around 37 basis points over the year as a whole. The euro remained stable at $1.04, but over the course of the year, it lost more than 5% against the US dollar. Experts say the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump on January 20th and the general election on February 23 in Germany will set the course for the stock market year. Should the Republican introduce the expected tax cuts, deregulation, and tariffs, the DAX rally of the past 2 years could quickly come to an end. Market experts also warned that old industry woes, including those of the car industry, were likely to travel into 2025.
Wir haben einen relativ ruhigen Ausklang des Jahres im DAX gesehen.
The number one topic is clearly the inauguration of Donald Trump. He has already announced that he will do things differently from day one. There are some threats in there, including threats to Europe and the German car manufacturers in terms of tariffs. That will certainly be one of the major challenges, because January is often a rather friendly market and January often says a lot about the year as a whole. You can draw a red line from that. And a not-so-good January will certainly not bode well for 2025 either. What the market is hoping for from a new government is, on the one hand, a very clear, changed economic policy and certainly also a different social policy. You could actually paint a picture of this in all areas. We hope to have a stable government in February. In my opinion, this will only happen if a two-party coalition is formed. And this must provide clear and stable guidelines, not only in social policy, but also in economic policy in particular. Otherwise, the extreme right and left will be strengthened and will then, God not willing, ultimately ensure that the situation is very clear in another election.
More news in business and economy in a moment. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. The stoppage of gas transit through Ukraine will have a drastic impact on European Union countries, except for Russia. That's according to pro-Russian Slovak leader who has repeatedly warned that the end of transit would cost Slovakia hundreds of millions of euros in lost transit revenue and higher fees for the import of other gas. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico said on Wednesday that it would also lead to a rise in gas and electricity prices in Europe. Russia's Gazprom export has suspended gas supplies to Slovakia following the end of a transit deal to carry gas through Ukraine.
Nikto, opakujem nikto, netlačí Slovensko preč zo životného priestoru.
Nobody, I repeat, nobody is pushing Slovakia away from the living space that is the European community. But we must see that selfish national interests of the big ones and meaningless geopolitical goals are beginning to dominate this community. And on the other hand, ignoring the needs of smaller ones. In world politics, it absolutely applies that it does not matter whether elephants love or fight. The grass always suffers. I do not want Slovakia to be such grass, as we see these days when the transit of gas through Ukraine is stopped, which will have drastic impacts on all of us in the European Union, but not on the Russian Federation.
Taiwan President Lai Ching-te wishes for more exchanges with China. Speaking at a New Year's Day news conference Wednesday, Lai said he welcomed equal, dignified, healthy, and orderly relations with China, but wondered whether there was goodwill from Beijing, given what he said was their blocking of simple things like tourism. He said China was blocking normal interactions with restrictions on Chinese tourists visiting or students studying on the island, while similar bans do not apply to Taiwanese going to China. Chinese President Xi Jinping said in his New Year's speech on Tuesday that no one can stop China's reunification with Taiwan. The Chinese military operates around Taiwan on a daily basis and last year staged 2 rounds of war games near the island. Lai said that the greater the threat from authoritarian countries, the more democracies should unite, and pointed to China and Russia's militaries operating together in the Indo-Pacific.
But I still want to stress this. Taiwan hopes to have healthy and orderly exchanges with China under the principles of reciprocity and dignity. Being friends with the world through democracy is a way to ensure stability and peace. The safer Taiwan is, the safer the world will be. The stronger Taiwan is, the more solid the world's democratic defense line will be. Democracies should unite to jointly resolve the Russia-Ukraine war and conflicts between Israel and Gaza, and safeguard the security of Taiwan Strait and Indo-Pacific. Taiwan needs to work together with global democracies, leverage our advantage in semiconductors and AI industries to further strengthen the democratic supply chain.
China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and detests Lai as a separatist. He says only Taiwan's people can decide their future. Here at home, the International Monetary Fund has recommended that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas enhance transparency by disclosing more information about its securities portfolio. This move aims to provide greater certainty to market participants. The IMF noted that while the BSP's holdings of government securities have decreased since the significant purchases during the COVID-19 pandemic, they remain substantial. The fund suggests that the BSP or central bank communicate a clear strategy regarding the size of its balance sheet during normal times to further bolster market confidence. In a related development, the IMF also highlighted challenges facing the Philippines due to its business demographics. The fund emphasized the need for structural reforms to address these issues and promote sustainable economic growth. President Marcos embarked on back-to-back trips in 2024. Here's a review of whether the Philippines might receive a return on investment and a review of other notable events in the past year in this report from Pierre Pastor.
President Bongbong Marcos' term as the President of the Philippines is on its midway point. A significant feature of his administration is his travels abroad from 2022 to 2024. These foreign trips claim to have returned more than $72.18 billion or approximately 4.2 trillion pesos in pledged investments. However, the Department of Trade and Industry reported this year that 14 billion pesos of the more than $72 billion has been actualized investments. The DTI confirms this through a data saying the figures represented the consolidated and processed investments covering 148 projects.
Kami po, hindi lang po ang presidente, even the economic managers, if you will notice po, we have been going out of the country to present po the Philippines as an investment hub po. So, I think yung expenses po ng travel, as long as it will be beneficial and mas may advantage po para sa bansa natin, I think okay lang po yun. It's justified.
Here are some of the highlights of PBBM's trips. In 2022, President Bongbong Marcos' first trip abroad was to Indonesia, where he and then Indonesian President Joko Widodo discussed about defense and trade. From Indonesia, he went straight to Singapore. He had an engagement with former Singaporean President Halima Jacob and incumbent Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. The third was to the United States for the 77th United Nations General Assembly. His fifth travel was to Cambodia. President Marcos attended the 40th and the 41st ASEAN Summit. This was his first ASEAN Summit as Philippine President. The sixth trip was to Thailand for the 29th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. The APEC Summit was Marcos's first as president and also the first in-person meeting of APEC's economist leaders since 2018. The final foreign trip for 2022 was to Belgium. President Bongbong Marcos attended the Association of Southeast Asian Nations European Union Commemorative Summit. On his second year as president in 2023, President Bongbong Marcos went to China, where he and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to have a direct communication line regarding issues in the West Philippine Sea. The president also went to Switzerland to attend the World Economic Forum, where the president presented the state of the Philippine economy and the initiatives taken to make the country conducive for business. He was the only ASEAN leader present. President Marcos also went to Japan, USA, the United Kingdom for the coronation of King Charles III, to Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and ending his travels in 2023 in Japan in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. For this year, 2024, President Bongbong Marcos's first trip was to Brunei. The president also visited Vietnam, twice to Australia, then to Germany, the Czech Republic, and went back to Washington, D.C. in the U.S. for the trilateral meeting with the U.S. and Japan. The DTI also noted that as a result of these foreign trips from the beginning of the term of the president, $5.8 billion or 282.8 billion pesos worth of investments are in projects already being registered with different investment promotion agencies. 54.75 billion in ventures already registered with IPAs, 11.4 billion in additional investments in existing IPA projects. DTI added that there were also signed agreements with clear financial project value amounting to 544.15 billion pesos. Critics says President Marcos is wasting money on his travels abroad that could be just for leisure and fun. As the president defends his travels, he showed his critics the schedules of his trips, occupied with state visits, summits, bilateral agreements and cooperation, and business meetings. He then asked, where is leisure in that? Another highlight were President's promises in his State of the Nation addresses. In his 2023 SONA, he stressed the importance of the Agriculture Department and that he wanted to give full support to the farmers and the Agrarian Reform Program. He fulfilled this promise through the new Agrarian Emancipation Act, or RA 11953. The government distributed land titles and certificates of condonation to farmers from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and continues to give land titles and certificates of condonation for the whole of 2024. It benefited more than 600,000 Filipino farmers and making them debt-free. Another emphasis of the SONA was on infrastructure projects dubbed as the Build Better More. 194 infrastructure projects were lined up, including some of the biggest and ongoing projects such as the North-South Commuter Railway System, which began construction in 2019. In the same year, the construction of the Metro Manila Subway Project Phase 1 also started. Additionally, the LRT Line 1 Cavite Extension Project began in 2019 with Phase 1 completed and officially opened in November this year, opening 5 stations. In his 2024 SONA, President Marcos reiterated his strong support for the Agriculture Department to ensure food security. For the Department of Education, support for teachers, completion of farm-to-market roads, more Kadiwa centers, climate change adaptation, addressing power shortages, addressing the West Philippine Sea issue, and the total ban of Pogo in the country. One unforgettable event of the Marcos administration in the past year was the falling apart of the relationship between President Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte towards the middle of the year. In a press conference, VP Sara said she wanted to behead President Marcos and also wanted to exhume the body of his father, the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. It went even more sour by the last quarter of the year, to a point that the Vice President threatened to have President Marcos, First Lady Liza, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez killed if something happens to her.
May kinausap na ako na tao. Sinabi ko sa kanya, kapag pinatay ako, patayin mo si BBM, si Lisa Araneta, at si Martin Romualdez. No joke.
The president responded and described the vice president's actions as troubling. He stated that this situation could have been avoided if the vice president had answered all the questions raised by the Senate and the House Representatives.
Hindi na sanang hahantong sa ganitong drama kung sasakodin lamang ang mga lehitimong katanungan sa Senado at sa House of Representatives. Ang katotohanan ay hindi dapat itokhang Tapos na sana ang usapang ito kung tutuparin lamang ang sinumpaang panata na bilang lingkod bayan ay magsabi ng totoo.
Towards the end of the year, the Marcos administration facilitated the repatriation of OFW and drug trafficking convict Mary Jane Veloso. Veloso celebrated Christmas with her family in the Philippines. As the year came to a close, the first family kicked off the Christmas celebration and opened the Malacañang Palace gates to the public once again, allowing people to enjoy the Yuletide season in a different way. Pierre Pastor, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
On the lighter side, 3 luxury watches owned by Hollywood superstar Keanu Reeves were found in Chile. A Rolex Submariner engraved with the words "The John Wick 5" was among those recovered in a police operation in Santiago. That particular Rolex timepiece is worth $9,000 or over $500,000 pesos. The high-value items were reportedly taken from Reeves' home in Los Angeles December 2023. Chilean authorities are in talks to help return these to the John Wick star. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.